same sort of thing, in that you are asking for the information to be revised.
Which would include a survey.
And so you are saying, I am going to provide you with information, you FEMA, with information to show that your data is incorrect.
See, the part that, you know, that upsets me though, is I'd have to pay money for the survey to have that change, when somebody else is not.
That's- You should be surveying saying, now you're under, instead of prove you're not.
Yeah,
Well,
what
but
did-
the
that's
thing-
what,
okay,
that's
well,
what,
the thing is, what, okay,
and I got one other thing.
okay, so what you're frustrated with right now
Is
is
money.
the fact, is money. Right, and it's the fact that your bank is requiring you to have insurance, and so you don't, it's requiring you to pay, how much are you paying for your?
$1,400.
$1,400 a year, so
That's our guess.
you're frustrated because you're being asked to pay $500 to offset a $1,400 cost.
Well, and that's no guarantee though that the,
Right.
we aren't gonna be charged the $1,400 on top of that.
Right, and I'm just saying, but that's what you're saying though, is that I've got a $1,400 charge here. In order to negate that charge, I have to pay $500.
Yeah.
Okay, and so.
Maybe.
Maybe. So,
So it's not $1,400 they're shelling out, it's $1,900.
And then you have to
And
pay
I'm
the
saying,
fix.
city should pay that and say, we did the survey, this is where you are, now you're gonna have to do this, here's how we can help you deal with that. Instead of saying, here's where you are, now prove you're not, or you gotta pay more.
That's
It's
my
just-
biggest, that's my biggest
Try,
issue with
anybody
survey.
in public work, try to get away with that. We're gonna fix your car, it's $20,000, but if you can prove that we were wrong the way we fixed it, then we'll give you a discount. It
No.
doesn't work.
But the
You don't
point of
wanna
all of it is, we wouldn't pay anything if the maps weren't wrong to begin with.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well,
They just were
if people,
on
okay,
data.
no, I can't say that, sorry.
No, this might be the other half of my engineering question, and like I said, I just got a particular corner post and, you know, nothing has been finalized yet, nobody has asked me to, like you were saying earlier, if it's not, if your house isn't on it, you know, it's not gonna be required, but who knows, it might be. But, now, I don't know where all this water builds up from the west side, I don't even know. I don't even know. I'm over here, and I'm along the creek. And that creek to me is controlled by a dam. Is there a dam up there on Lake Leota?
Yes, there is.
Now, I asked the question in 2006, and I don't know who I was talking to that was, but they said, we don't have any answer for you. Well, what if that dam fails at a really watery time, and then I get flooded? Now, is the city gonna be able to ask for more money because they're in the National Flood Insurance Plan? Or program? I mean, I get all this other stuff, but where I'm at, I got a dam up the street.
I want to really throw something in the works. How about if you don't fill Leota?
Well, but even, oh yeah, what's that referendum? But I have a lot
No,
of,
that's a good question. You want to know, what are the consequences of, if this dam fails, what are the consequences to me? What kind of mitigation, what kind of restitution, what kind of assistance can I get if that's something that happens? If you have flood insurance,
not required yet.
it's not required, but if you had decided to purchase a deferred risk policy, then, and the water comes in and it damages your house, then you would be paid to whatever the limits were on your insurance policy. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
If the city would have the right, if it was a large enough scale disaster like it was this spring, to apply for hazard mitigation grant program funds, which is through the Wisconsin Emergency Management Agency. They handle those. Those are big funds that come in post-disaster, and they might purchase the funds to reconstruct the dam. They might purchase funds to rebuild the stream system if it was severely damaged and you were now having safety issues with eroding embankments. They might be putting in riprap or something like that. your primary source, you could apply for, if the amount of flood insurance you had was insufficient to meet your needs to reconstruct your home, because for some reason it, like, you know, looked like something up at Lake Delton, then you could apply for an SBA loan, which is a low-cost loan, which they're at like 3 or 4%. They're 30-year mortgage loans.
Well, with Lake Leota not being full and with all that rain that we got this year, the backyard filled up. I'm not for certain if the creek was ever altered. Allen Creek, I don't know if it was ever altered, but, you know, the smokehouse next to us.
Okay.
He said that he believes that the creek used to run through our yard. And he's watched our ground sink, you know, then there's water sitting in there in the springtime. I'm not gonna build there, it's in the floodplain, that's fine. But what, you know,
That's,
the reason why I'm here is if I gotta get flood insurance, because where this pole is in the water, compared to where our front door is like 8 feet. And like I said, if we get flooded, you know, we're all in deep trouble.
right.
So, if I gotta pay to get a survey, that's where I'm at. I mean, it's not gonna matter what I say tonight, what I don't understand, because the bottom line is even if I,
Well, I guess I have this question. How many people went to the meeting, the open house in Janesville? Okay. In many ways, that was the window to address a lot of the concerns that we're hearing tonight.
Please
about-
remember that that was before a lot of our houses were built.
Right, okay,
But-
and that's,
but-
but I'm just saying,
but then I checked and it wasn't, you know,
Right.
it wouldn't take effect yet anyway, so. And it depends, you know, how do you look at that line? How do you, this is my particular instance, how do you look at that line? So, I mean, if they say that my building is in the floodplain and I take that one pole out and they do another aerial view, well then, see, I don't understand how they come across this particular line
okay,
for the you know, the floodplain line. And this little 4x4
everybody
post,
have this written down, who wants to write it down, because I'm gonna erase it. Okay.
we're not gonna fight the government, and I know that, I just have the back of my mind that the house will never get flooded, but I think that, you know, water can get up awful high where I'm at. And I'm concerned about their line, that's what I was saying before, that you're suggesting and should be, and it's a guess, but, I mean, to really get it down to detail, then I'm gonna have to pay for a survey to have that altered. It doesn't mesh, for me.
Okay. This is the ground. Okay? Every day, regular run of the mill, this is where your water is. This is June 2008, when all our lives were miserable. I hated it, I was sitting at home going, oh, there goes my week. This is where the water's gonna be at that point, okay? And how they do this is they sit there and it's called hydrology and hydraulics. You usually have this written down, so I'm gonna try to get it right. Hydraulics is how much water is moving through the tube, how much water is moving through the stream bed, how much water is moving through the floodplain, through a set area. It's how much water is moving through there. Hydrology is how high up and how far out it's going to spread. So we have a geographic impact of how much water is moving through that area. So if you look at it this is looking at it on a cross section. Okay, so you see this is the regular level of the water, and then it comes up, and this is your floodplain. What they do is they take this, you look at it at an aerial point of view. Okay, you're gonna say, here's my stream, okay? And they have all of these contours. They know when they fly LiDAR is an aerial radar light. light infrared detection aerial radar or something like that. And it is a way of getting very finely detailed topographic information. It beats going out there with beats what our surveyor here can do. So, when you're looking at mass areas, when you're looking at large-scale areas, and you want to get, you know, you're looking at a county, and you want to get good topographic data for a county, LiDAR is going to be able to do that for you very, very quickly. Whereas if you want to do something on a smaller piece of property, you would go to a surveyor, because that's where you're going to get the best.
I'm just teasing.
That's okay. What they do is they take this, okay, and you basically invert it, and you look at your topographic lines, and we know that this elevation right here is 834 feet above mean sea level, or NGVD, which is National Geodetic Vertical Datum, or NAVD, North American Vertical Datum. They're using this datum, they're saying that's at 834. So what they do is they go up here and they look at topographic lines. Now, if you're looking at 10-foot contours, you're going to be looking at a line which is between 830 to 840. And you're going to stick this 834, you're going to guess, and you round up or round down. So they might round, because it's below 5, they may round down to 830, which means they've got the floodplain smaller than it actually is. This was 836, they round it up to 840, which means they have it wider than it actually is. And what they do is, based on what you have, if you have 2-foot contours, you're looking at 832 to 8, you're looking at 830 to 832, 832 to 834. You have a much smaller interval, and it allows you to draw that line more accurately. So they sit there and they go and say, all right, I'm following this contour, and it goes like this. And on this side, it comes out again, comes out on this side again. For some reason, this is how your ground goes. And they say, okay, between those lines, that's this line right here. And they make these things that are called cross sections, where they do these. And they do what's called interpolation. Interpolation is you say, I know the detailed information here, I know detailed information here, I can assume it's in between. Now, I used assume, okay? I used 830 to 832 or 830 to 840. This isn't by inches here, people. This is, we're looking at, that's why your pole may be shown in when actually it isn't, or your home may be shown in when it isn't. Because the detail isn't fine enough to be able to get it exact for your specific property.
But the lending mortgage people in the insurance company, that, I mean,
That's all they have to go by. They have to go by something.
But why is it our
but it's
responsibility?
my responsibility to
What they
get the
should do
survey.
is,
I can give you an
here's all the
observation
houses
to answer
right
that.
there.
Here's an answer to that, just from somebody out observing this discussion. Prior to the current maps and what they have discovered, or the information they have provided recently that has changed your situation, was done to improve the detail from what the basis was when your homes were built, using data from pre-2000 apparently, prior to do the detail. What they have done is improve the lines to improve your situations so that you can be better protected, so you can better protect yourself by getting insurance. When your homes were built, they were using information that said everything was okay. But somebody said, we need to look at this closer so those people living there are not misinterpreting or misled. They did a better job of mapping, which gave you better information so you could protect yourself with insurance. Had they done it by finding out where every inch along that red line was, we would see the results 20 years from now. What would it take to survey inch by inch this whole area we're talking about? What they've done is improve the maps so that you have better information to protect yourself. If in your lot, your 60 by 200 lot, or whatever size your lot is, if you want to know the precise dimensions, then you hire somebody to find that so that you can improve on your protection. Maybe because you need more, or maybe because you need less. I live on a lot 20 years, I lived there 21 years. I bought it from the people that built the house in 1922. It's been surveyed once. If I want to put a garage on the side of my house, I have to deal with the ordinances that limit me to the lot line of my neighbor, based on information derived sometime between 1922 and 1986, when I bought the property. We have to establish where that lot line is, so before I can ask for a variance to put my garage up. I can't go to the city and say, I want to do this, the information is foggy and I need to know what it is, will you pay so I can know that information? No, I'm on my little part of the map, wanting to know exactly where my lot line is so that I can build my garage, or I can get the appropriate flood insurance.
Do you want flood insurance?
Yeah, see, you're
You wanna
using
pay
words
15
like, you're using words like for your protection, but when.
Well, that's what
when-
insurance is for. No,
Well,
I
you're
don't
protecting
want,
me.
I
I don't have
don't
the
want
choice.
life insurance, I don't want car insurance.
And I don't want.
I don't have the
want
choice
any
to get
insurance,
flood
but I
insurance.
want to protect myself
And I
and
don't
my
want it.
Well,
family.
you're
I don't want-
protecting the bank so that they could get their money back in case there is damage. I mean, that's in the best interest of the mortgage company too.
Well, let me
That-
ask you this, I wanna ask all of you
There's
this
nothing wrong with
question,
that.
because you're all citizens of the city of Evansville. Where is the city of Evansville going to get the money to do the survey on your property?
Where am I gonna get some
No,
money?
no, where is the city of Evansville
I
going
don't
to get
care.
that money?
Taxes.
Yes.
Are they gonna lower our taxes now because our homes are worth less? I doubt it.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that in order to produce the level of detail that I think some of you would have desired in this, is beyond the fiscal ability of the state and FEMA. The state and FEMA did what they could with the money that was available. And to have it be finer, how much is the letter of map revision study costing? Do you have any idea what the developer is paying?
There's around 10,000 on the engineering, the application fee is 4,800.
Yeah, might have been up to 5,000. But you're looking at $10,000 just to study a very small portion.
But his house isn't gonna be there, is it?
Okay, so here we are,
Mhm.
several of us have had this insurance imposed upon us because the length of time we were given wasn't sufficient to deal with this. Let's say we get our letter of map amendment,
Mhm.
are we entitled to a refund of what we've already been charged for that insurance because it was wrong to begin with?
That I'm not sure of, and that is a question I want you to put to your insurance agent.
I think
Because
the,
there-
I've talked to somebody at FEMA and the answer is yes. You will get back any of the premium that you paid because you pay for the whole thing up front. Or you're supposed to,
Is that prorated from the day of the amendment,
yes.
or back to the, it's not back to the start?
I don't think so. I think it's from, yeah.
So what is the city doing to lower our property taxes since our homes are now worth less?
It's a hypothetical question. I can see a certain logic that makes some sense, but it's a marketing is nationwide. If your house is glass.
Which means we don't have an extra 15 grand or
But-
1,500 to pay for a survey.
But if you were to turn around and sell your house, so we could actually say that it's worth less, it could be for a number of factors, and this is just one of them.
This is a big one.
Sure. But it's one, to say, hey, this is something.
So what are you gonna do?
If, granted, it's over time, it's not something that's tomorrow or next year.
Yeah.
If over time, there is a trend that this neighborhood, or actually sort of citywide, because we're a small enough community, there is a reduced value in the housing, all houses in the city will be revalued based upon that. It doesn't make
So
your
in
taxes.
other words, no, is what you're saying. It's not.
If that's what you want to take this. Steve?
Yeah, is there any way you can get a FEMA person here, really? I mean,
I will.
Thanksgiving's
I-
fine, I
I'd be
mean,
happy to give Eric a call tomorrow.
yeah,
out
I
of Chicago.
appreciate it.
But I can't say he'll be there. I'll definitely give him a call.
I'm going to say actually Eric is not the person who would need to come because you're talking mapping issues. You would want to have one of the engineers up.
From FEMA?
From FEMA, so you can put the request into Ken Hinchelon, but I don't know. Yeah, you can call Eric, and Eric can put you in contact with Ken, but Eric can also give you sort of a better.
Can you get them both, or not needed?
Eric, this has nothing to do with mapping. And
What-
I know that he would not come.
But would we
because he's
want
just too busy.
FEMA and DNR, both sets of engineers at the same time?
The engineers from the DNR would I mean, you can ask, but the problem that we're looking at right now is the map is finished, the map is final, the city is going through a letter of map revision. And they could say is, I mean, is it, but what you want is an explanation of why, of how this, the technical data of how this unnumbered A zone was created? Or do you want to have a discussion of how you can make the unnumbered A zone go away? What would you want to talk to the DNR about?
Not doing this to somebody else, how about changing policy?
Yeah.
No, but this is state engineering process. This is how these maps are created. This is the federal.
That doesn't change that it's wrong.
But it's not wrong.
Well,
But
if
you're
we
dealing
get an
with
engineer-
individuals.
If we get a
if they're-
survey that says we shouldn't have been there, then it's wrong.
When you buy a house and a year later, it's worth
I
nothing.
really,
I know
I
somebody-
guess the thing that I'm very, very frustrated with right here is that there seems to be this inability to understand the actual cost of producing these types of documents.
We're individuals.
They're extremely expensive, and they can only do as much as they have money for.
We are individuals being ordered by the government.
Okay.
All right,
That's a
okay,
frustration.
I mean, if you wanted to ask somebody from the DNR, you can, I don't know what we would say to you. We can't change FEMA's policy. If you want to argue with FEMA, you can, but I don't see the process changing. This is the process that has been used. It's not something they just pulled out of a hat. This is, engineering processes that have been verified
I
across the
had
US.
two of your DNR people in the back of my yard after the one flood, and they said it wasn't their problem, it was the city's problem. They're the ones, they had nothing to do with what the towns do. That's what the two DNR people said in my
Okay,
backyard.
there's lots of DNR programs. Which programs were they?
Walking through this problem while we're getting flooded out, and where the water could go. I don't got their cards, but I, someplace at home.
Okay,
But
they
they
have-
said they weren't even involved in this evolution.
Okay, because they could be shoreline people, and if they're shoreline, then no, they are. I'm just saying, there's
I
lots of
just
different.
called DNR, I told them the problem I had, they sent two of their people down to our house. They were in the backyard, we walked up through the creek and everything else, and finally just turned to us, that's not our problem, it's the town's problem.
That,
So,
I mean, I
the
can't
DNR
speak
ain't
to
gonna
that.
help us at all anyway.
It's kinda like that dam, and is it the city, is it the DNR?
Right.
I don't know
Who's
if
gonna
I
help
need,
us?
I don't know if I
Yeah,
need
who's
a
gonna help us
counselor
financially?
or an engineer. I mean,
The question, and there's a question over here, the question about who's gonna help us, or what's the city going to do financially in terms of these surveys?
In terms of all of it, the insurance surveys, our home values, who's gonna help us?
I hate to say it,
Nobody.
but nobody. It really, it's part of VA property owned.
That's, you're right.
what kind of shape is that dam in? I'm sorry to cut you off over there. But what kind of shape is that dam in? Has anybody tested that, or has there been a survey or
There
any
was-
engineers check that out?
It gets inspected regularly, it was inspected, I believe, about 2 years ago. There are some very minor remediations that need to be made to it when the lake, if and when the lake is flooded.
All that, oh, I'm sorry, but all that water that rushed down through there, it looked like some big heavy cement, pieces were put in there that actually got moved by that water. And then the banks are washing out too. I mean, that has nothing to do with this question here, but I mean, it can, but is any of that taken into consideration? I mean, does that have any effect on flood? If, does that dam have anything to affect with the flood? I mean, consideration of where these lines are drawn? I'm worried about that lake, and I don't know nothing about it. I know my yard.
No, I just want to answer that really quickly, and then I want to let this gentleman over here, and then we'll get to you, sir. If the dam becomes operational and the lake is filled, that is going to be a change in conditions from the way the current maps are mapped, because the current maps probably don't show the overfilled water, am I correct? I don't know, we can look, but let's say they didn't, let's say they show it as being whatever it is right now, okay? I just don't know, I mean, I've only seen what I know what I've seen on Channel 3. Then the city, if they feel, you know, if it may be true, they could do, the city could do a study to determine whether or not there's any increased risk by the lake being filled and the dam being now operational to those structures, those residences, buildings, whatever, that are downstream.
Well, maybe that would have,
Okay, let's say they do a study and they find that there's an increased risk of flooding, then they could file a letter of map revision with the Federal Emergency Management Agency to change the flood maps to show that. Conversely, they could show by the dam being in there and it being operational, and that they've done all the things they would need to do for an operational dam. It could also show that the floodplain therefore shrinks, that the risk decreases, because now the dam functions correctly.
but was that part of this process to get these lines to where they are now?
I'd have to pull up the study to check. I believe that the study assumes the lake and dam are in operation, but it's easy enough to check.
I
Because
want-
I'm sorry, but because I gotta go, I missed an
Right.
award presentation and everything for this silly thing. But, my line, it never changed from the 2006 meeting to what it is right now, but, you know, now that I gotta, you know, did this actually play a part in where that line is, or should it be moved because the dam was not taken into effect, which I'm, you know, if I could get that answer, maybe I need to contact you, you know, later.
I think it might be
but-
good for you to go down and talk to the city engineer and to look at.
Yeah, because a lot of the questions that I think a lot of us have are not gonna be answered here tonight until in the future. And I understand that you're here to explain what you need to, and I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
And I thank you for being here and just letting us know what's going on, but, you know, a lot of questions ain't gonna be answered until we have to pay for it.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, Will Kotler Land Survey. I am a surveyor, also an engineer. Now that picture, Miriam, you said that house that's outside the dashed line does not need flood insurance. I work with cities, I work with the DNR, I work with FEMA, I work with insurance companies. What insurance companies do with that database, and what's your name, sir?
Dan,
Dan. They're not gonna look at the map in detail enough and see where your house is. They take that new floodplain map essentially, and your parcel now is tagged as being in the flood zone.
the whole thing.
Right. So regardless of whether it's a square foot on the corner or the whole lot, they're just gonna come back and say, your mortgage company, if you have a mortgage, is gonna say you need flood insurance. The opportunity for you at that point then is to hire a surveyor or somebody who's licensed to certify elevations, come on and shoot the elevations, you send in the paperwork, you prove them differently. That opportunity is there.
Yeah, but I mean, what's gonna flood now is, yard and, you know,
Right. Now, the good news about all this, when I got the first call from Dave Johnson on Sixth Street, and he said he needed an elevation certificate for his mortgage company, was, well, okay, I'll come do the mortgage certificate, you're Zone A. There's not a lot I can do for people in Zone A because there's not any flood elevations. What we have here, when I found out that there's this development going on, and then there's this study that is in the process of being approved, now we have elevations. And we're not paying for that at all. I'm getting that information for nothing, and I'm able to actually use that information that I'm going to add to the elevation certificates as a bonus to the service that I'm providing. For example, Dave Johnson, who now has to get flood insurance. But when that study gets approved, I'm just gonna plug that number in on the paperwork as a courtesy to him and throw it in there, and he's gonna get that paper back. So yes, he paid $500. I mean, it took me pretty much all day to do that work, plus the paperwork. I did come back and do a couple more because of that. They had calls that they needed the elevation certificate. Those people paid $400 a piece. So I'm here tonight to help. And if anybody's interested in getting it done, or if they need it done,